Burma is not just for sightseeing. The people are amazing. Some of my most memorable moments have been in rapport with the people, as you will see on this video. We laugh with them. We learn from them. But most important of all, we get a little understanding of this great nation. Take a look with me.
Burma. The very name conjures up images of golden stupas, shining white temples, and smiling, friendly people. But there are people experiencing difficult times. For most, life is a struggle, their political and economic plight, draining them of almost everything except their need to survive. This is a film about Burma, now called Myanmar, and its people. I've been coming here since 1997, many times, and it seems like while the whole world changes at a pace, Burma is left in a time warp that has changed little outside of Rangoon and Mandalay. Daily life is still influenced by old values and cultural traditions that at least give a sense of stability and belonging to a people who live under a despotic military regime that is the very antithesis of these old values. Life in rural areas remains relatively unchanged. In fact, there's probably a subconscious resistance to change, because the old ways provide a sense of security in an environment of uncertainty and where fear rules. Needless to say, this underlying mindset, coupled with the extreme poverty, are great inhibitors when it comes to seeking change. But the quest for freedom goes on, inevitably a slow process. But the people deserve better, and I believe things are changing. So what about this land? Rudyard Kipling said, "This is Burma. It will be quite unlike any land you know about." Any visitor to Burma will be amazed by the sheer wonder of the place. It has a special atmosphere of beauty and history, and is filled with unusual and fascinating sights. Mystical, magical, and outrageously picturesque. These are words used in attempts to describe this amazing land. They are no exaggeration. Come with me, deep into remote areas, and get an insight into this fascinating nation. This is not a film about the politics of this nation. I'll leave that to people who know better than I. It's about an amazing land and a very special people.
So we're on Inle Lake and gonna have the rest of today. It's 11 o'clock. We'll enjoy the rest of the day and the beautiful sunshine and the beautiful lake. Looking forward to it.
I'm starting here because it plunges us right into the middle of the country. And it's a destination like nowhere else on earth. I have to say, this place makes a profound impression upon the visitor. A few years ago, I enjoyed a cup of coffee after breakfast here one morning with Vanessa Courtney, who produced Michael Paling's Himalaya. The topic of conversation mainly being, this place is amazing. No roads, no cars, a totally different way of life, and wonderful people. Though the boat is noisy, it takes us for a trip through Wonderland.
Well, we arrived fine at the hotel. It's a nice room, very nice hotel. We thought we would just go out and we're not going to have a full meal, but just maybe have a snack, place where we normally go. This lake on a boat here with the nice warm sunshine, breeze in your face. It's just really nice, relaxing place.
Inle Lake is a freshwater lake located in Shan State, north of Rangoon, and to the east of Mandalay. It's the second largest lake in Myanmar, with a surface area of over 40 square miles and an altitude of 2,900 feet, which makes it pleasant most of the time. The Intha, or people of the lake, number around 70,000 and live in 4 towns on the edge of the lake, in numerous small villages along the lake's shores, and many on the lake itself. Most of them live in simple wooden houses on stilts, and earn their living from the land and lake. Their devotion to Buddhism is clear, even in the villages, with the iconic golden stupas prominent amidst ramshackled wooden houses, many with thatched roofs, but some having zinc sheeting. Transportation on the lake is traditionally by small boats, but as we sit having lunch and watching the world go by, one notices that most of the boats going by have outboard motors. The upside of this for us is that we can travel at a reasonable 6 or 8 miles an hour, feel the wind in our faces, keep cool, and be able to see more. In the meantime, we watch the longboats, like plumed cockerels, chasing through the village, their heads held high, as though proud of their plumes, but with shrieking and turbulence that disturbs old ways. Occasionally we pass through a town. Under the bridges, numerous small hotels, and in the midst of rickety wooden buildings, there emerges the inevitable, magnificent pagoda, giving the same impression to the viewer that great British cathedrals would no doubt have given in the Middle Ages. Wow, who built this? But time to be a dryland tourist. Being on terra firma does make shooting easier. And yes, those wonderful people, especially the children, they're a real blessing. This brother and sister even spoke a little English. It's certainly a photogenic place. The warm colors of the pagoda, in contrast to the blue sky and water. Inside there are 5 images of Buddha, The devotees can add a layer of gold leaf to them if they wish, but only men are allowed to do this. Because of the practice, the images are now unrecognizable as Buddhas. So we continue our odyssey. Another tourist attraction are the Padong people, a Shan word which literally means long neck. Traditionally, women wore neck rings, but this practice has generally decreased in recent times. The majority of women no longer wearing them. I'm thus torn between thinking these people are using it as a gimmick to make a living, or thanking them for creating this authentic cultural museum in situ to keep alive their traditions and allow the world a glimpse. They were very nice people here, using traditional weaving methods and selling their creations. They showed me the neck rings and explained to me the difficulty of sleeping in them. Once on, they stay on for several years, increasing in length each time they're changed. They cost about $200 US.
This actually is very heavy. It weighs 3 kilos.
The impression they gave me was that they were proud of their culture. This is a must-visit place. The only way to get around is by boat. To hire by the day is best. They carry 4 to 6 people and relatively cheap. Though with the onset of tourism, the price has multiplied. Seats are comfortable, but a hat is a necessity. If possible, attached in some way to prevent it joining your mind on the trip and being blown away. The drivers take an interesting tour of the lake, taking in the scenic sights, the interesting places. Don't be surprised in the middle of this remote rural area to come across a multitude of gold and white stupas reaching for the sky. The culture, as it were, painted onto the scenery. It communicates who these people are. So here I am, being treated to a kaleidoscope of images as I relax with camera in hand, feet up, enjoying life. This is a great place to visit. The light making images come alive. The fishermen at work. The unique contraption used to fish is puzzling to say the least. He seems to drop the cage onto the lake bed, 6 feet or so below, which is covered by weeds, in which apparently the fish hide. He then uses his pronged spear to spear the fish, or maybe disturb them to make them emerge from their hiding place and into the net. He then lifts out the contraption and collects the trapped fish. Even the tourist traps are unlike those found in most places. They tended to be fascinating places that gave much insight into life on the lake. The lake to some extent is self-sufficient. One would expect it to be importing metal tools, for instance, but the converse is true. They export. Nowadays, some workshops are open to visitors who can view the whole process. Not automated, the old ways, the ancient methods used by their forebears and handed down, but fascinating. In the middle of a lake, the furnace roars, the hammers in perfect time cooperate to create. An urgency to strike while the iron's hot, a necessity to play one's part, a dependency upon my fellow worker. Fantastic.
Now we're on our way to the ancient city of Inwa, and let's see what they've been doing over there in the last 10 years.
It is indeed 10 years since I last visited here, and this is a trip that is interesting, scenic, and fun. By car, it's about 40 minutes away from Mandalay, and as soon as we reach the river, local girls come selling their handicrafts, their faces painted with tanaka, made from the bark of the tree, that protects their skin and makes them look nice. They'd learned some English.
Yeah, you think about it. You remember me? I remember. You remember it?
Oh, good. Your English, good.
Yeah, a little bit.
Fantastic kids. We needed to cross the river, a tributary of the Irrawaddy, so we paid the $1 fee and climbed aboard a long-tailed boat that even carried motorbikes and tourists. The people here are always delightful. Once on the other side, there are horse and carts, the best way to get to Inwa, the only way apart from walking. The horse and cart also being their main mode of transport for everything. It's one of those tourist places. When you get the idea, you're paying 10 times over the odds, but it still seems dirt cheap. My good friend Renger is negotiating a good price, which I guess is somewhere between tourist price and local price. We paid a whopping $5 for the round trip, and everybody was happy. It was great fun to ride through the countryside in this way. We soon reached the first destination in the midst of the rice paddies. The traffic is heavy today. Bagaya Monastery, built in 1834, entirely of teak wood, the biggest post being 60 feet long and 9 feet in circumference. It represents both ancient architecture and art. It's still in very good condition, and now houses a school. The last time I was here, I actually filmed the class, but today the lessons had ended. Outside, I decided to have a young coconut.
Kampong Jawa. This is This coconut costs 500 jet. She will. 500 jet is half 50 cents. US 50 cents. She make this sale today, she'll retire. What? Anything inside? Yeah, anything in there. Oh. Nuwajini. Coconut. 500 jet. 50 cent US. But taste.
We then went to the Nanmyin Tower, the site of the former palace of Ava. The only thing left is an 89-foot high tower. The trinket shops abound. Then we made our way back to the ferry. When visiting places, we get to savor, if that is the word, the sights, the sounds, the tastes, and the smells. Burma has an abundance of all. We then made our way to Sagaing, which is the capital of Sagaing Kingdom in the 14th century and briefly became the royal capital between 1760 and 1763. It's located on the Irrawaddy River, 13 miles to the southwest of Mandalay, religious and monastic center. Pagodas and monasteries are abundant here, and the hills show it. We explored a little, taking in some of the sights from the top of the hill, the Irrawaddy below. Before visiting the central pagoda, Sun U Ponyashin Pagoda is connected by covered staircases that run up the hill. The place is spotlessly clean, all Buddhist sites requiring the removal of shoes. The gold leaf covered stupas shining in the sunshine and creating an impressive sight. As usual, the people very friendly. Government statistics show Burma is 88% Buddhist, though Christianity is the fastest growing religion and now has over 6%. Believe it or not, some areas, such as the Chin, Kachin and Karam people, are almost 100% Christian. Our visit to these pagodas was a very enjoyable experience. The weather had been beautiful. We enjoyed every minute. The Sedona Hotel here is actually my favorite hotel in Burma. I get my usual suite overlooking the palace,
and Mandalay Hill in the distance, and the first thing next morning is to take a stroll around the palace moat. Mandalay has a rich history, an important Buddhist center, but also in times past this area has been an important part of Burma's history. Right in the center of the town is the palace, surrounded by a moat that is around 200 feet wide, each side being 2 kilometers or 1.25 miles. First trip today is to the Mingun Bell, and the hotel has provided a car for us. We soon reach the legendary Irrawaddy River, which runs right past Mandalay, and hired a boat to take us the 7 miles upriver to visit the Bell. I've taken this trip at least a dozen times, and I love it. It's a fascinating place, with all kinds of exotic boats, unusual scenery, and interesting people, not to mention the joy of cruising up the river in style. The river has always carried all kinds of freight, and was immortalized by Kipling's poem, Mandalay. The road to Mandalay is the Irrawaddy River. Thus, on the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play. And yes, they can be seen here sometimes. It is still important, and we even saw barges carrying 100-foot trees, no doubt the immortal Burma teak. I think some of these boats were around when Kipling was here. I love the opportunity that boats always give, that of being able to just sit and observe. My colleague, Dinesh, experiencing Burma for the first time. We soon arrived. This was, in times past, a very important place. No elaborate pier or jetty, we just moor up on the bank and walk the plank. Another chance to sit and watch.
We have so many coconut. Very nice. Only costs $1.
Taxi, anybody? I always resist the temptation and always regret it afterwards. Sitting in a buffalo cart, being drawn along the banks of the Irrawaddy, has to be a great experience. Here's the taxi stand. So we walk up to the town of Mingun, as though transported back in time. A young boy getting an ancient hairstyle. Then the Mingun Temple, the Mingun Patodoji, that certainly dominates the area and is visible from miles away. It's uncompleted, and rather than the title of the largest stupa in the world,
has earned the dubious title of biggest heap of rubble after the earthquake of the 23rd of March 1839 devastated it. It was begun by King Bodopaya in 1790 and was not completed, as an astrologer claimed that once the temple was completed, the king would die, opposite to two lions that guard the entrance. It's a tourist place and there are many shops here to peruse. Anybody fancy a Burma pancake? Here the people are great, always friendly. They always say tata for goodbye. I don't know if it's Burmese or just from the British.
Tata! Tata!
King Bodopaya also had an enormous bell cast for his enormous stupa. The Mingun Bell weighs 90 tons and until recently was the largest ringing bell in the world. For me, part of any trip is to get to know the people a little. I'll try to establish rapport and try to learn some simple phrases. Have a joke for the kids.
So beautiful.
My motto is, I came, I saw, I learned. And I learned that though these people are poor, they'll give to you. Though they have few possessions, they're happy. And most of all, they've learned to be content with what they have. So back down the river to Mandalay.
Wonderful trip to Mingun. Evening time, sun is out. Very enjoyable.
I'd spent a couple of days in Mandalay and decided to visit the beautiful hill station of Maymyo, now called Pyin Lwin, that is located in the Shan Highland, 42 miles to the east, and at an altitude of 3,500 feet. Very cool. First stop, the Pagoda Falls, about 15 minutes outside the town, which features a number of small waterfalls and a popular place for locals to visit. I'm visiting in the dry season, and the water is not so plentiful. I was told in the rainy season the falls are spectacular. Nevertheless, it's a beautiful spot, and I met many local people wanting to practice their English on me. It's been a popular scenic spot from colonial times. It's also a Buddhist shrine, and young monks get their education here. The rope bridge was precarious, but this family took the challenge, even with their small children. Being a tourist spot, there are plenty of shops selling just about everything. Their strawberries were delicious, and the people very friendly. The river became a swimming pool where everyone had fun. And for the hungry, there was plenty of places to get a tasty snack. From there we went back into the town. I'd seen the Wild West horses and carriages on my last trip and was amazed at the sight. So I wanted to get some shots. Right in the center of the town was the equivalent of the taxi stand. Looking at them, I didn't know whether I'd see Billy the Kid or Cinderella. It's certainly an anomaly. And were it not for the cars, I would feel I was back in the 19th century. The town is littered with many bungalows and villas and large mansions, built by the British during their rule and now occupied by rich local people or converted to hotels and guest houses. Today it provides the visitor with a taste of former times. I was only here for a day, but I would love to stay a couple of nights here, soaking up the atmosphere of bygone days and enjoying the beautiful climate and gardens. We then went to visit the star attraction here, Kandorji National Gardens, established in 1915, the National Botanical Gardens, and cost me $5. I have a joke that I tell about British hill stations. Wherever they went, the British created a lake that could be walked around, filled it with fish, and provided rowing boats, and more often than not, a botanical garden next to it, with a potpourri of flowers and shrubs. Here was no exception. When one considers this is smack bang in the middle of one of the poorest countries in Asia, it's amazing. A flower-clad clock tower, totally surrounded by blooms. Just one of the attractions. This is not for a special occasion. To my knowledge, they didn't even know I was coming. It's like this all the time. Is comparable to any English country garden. To save time, I rode the oversized golf buggy that transports visitors through the park for a small fee. My destination was the 4-acre orchid garden. Wow, everything about this place is impressive. Then back to the main garden. When the British founded Pyin Lwin in 1896, it was originally called Maymyo, Maytown, after Colonel May of the 5th Bengal Infantry, and was built as a place to escape the heat of the plains, a common British custom in Asia. After the railway was built connecting the town to Mandalay, Maymyo became the summer capital of the British administration, and this continued until the end of British rule in 1948. I visited here on 2 occasions, and both times I've been amazed by the place and by the people. These boys live nearby and were enjoying their photography, as were many others in this colourful, photogenic paradise. Alas, I'm taking a day trip, so I was soon heading back into the town, this time stopping along the way to take a look at some of the beautiful homes built by the British. Many reminiscent of the old country. The old governor's mansion had a new hotel built onto it, with bungalows serving as bedrooms, that was spacious and cost only $75 a night, including breakfast. Newly built in the old style, immaculate. The mansion itself provided the historical aspect. Vintage cars. And inside there were even wax models of former celebrities, including Colonel May, who spent 22 years here. The governor's mansion part of the hotel was more like sleeping in history. Amazing. A thoroughly enjoyable day out. And Josh, my driver, who works out of the Swan Hotel, was a gem. My usual suite at the Sedona overlooked Mandalay Palace and Mandalay Hill. A great way to end a great day. We wanted to get an overall insight into Burma and heard about the National Races Village, traditional houses of many of the ethnic groups found in Burma. Though there are over 100 ethnic groups, there are only 7 main ones, all featured here. We were able to visit some of them. Each group has a model house on display, and the visitor is able to see an example of what it might look like inside. The Bama is the largest group and the tribe from which Burma derives its name. Each of the houses features artworks and is laid out as a traditional home. Around the houses are replicas of some of the famous sights of Burma, like the iconic Golden Rock. We can see it here, and it may inspire the visitor to see the real thing. But there's also opportunity to meet some of the people, some of them working here, and some like us just visiting, but all friendly and courteous. A copy of the Mingun Bell near Mandalay, and also insights of life here, the rope bridge, a great necessity in many areas of Burma. There are also things to do. As we walked around the village, we kept getting images of Burma. It was well worth a visit. And we not only were able to get an insight into the land and the people, but it was a very enjoyable place to take a stroll and enjoy the scenery. It's not only a diverse land, but also a diverse people. And this village gives us the opportunity to savor a little of what Burma has to offer. I have to say they've done a great job here introducing Burma to the visitor. One of the places we were bound was the Pyin Hills, and this was of special interest. I've been to many Pyin homes in the past, and the traditional Pyin house on display was very realistic, though it lacked that lived-in look. It was a great place to start off a visit to Burma. I'm in a suite at the Sedona Hotel in Rangoon, my favorite hotel here. It actually overlooks the home of Aung San Suu Kyi across the lake. The first thing to do is to go into town to get all my air tickets. I've been here about 15 times, a city full of pagodas and old buildings. The Seoul Pagoda, reputed to be over 2,500 years old and built at the time of Buddha, even before the Shwedagon Pagoda was built. City Hall, magnificent, and reminders of colonial days abound. Emmanuel Baptist Church. After getting my tickets, I took a walk around and headed for the main market. Cheap food outlets proliferate here. The betel nut concoction still a favorite. And though this area is in the center of the city, it clearly reflects the fact that this is just about the poorest nation in Asia. So how about a communal hot pot? Anyone for noodles and offal? I'm not hungry, though I have to say, it smelled good. Lots of things to see. Here they're making potato crisps, a relic of British rule. They were not only delicious, but fresh as can be. And General Aung San's Market, right downtown, a must-explore for the visitor. Shopper's paradise? Maybe. But it's not bargains I'm after, it's pictures. Jewelry is big business. Their creations are made in the shop. While below, the locals follow intellectual pursuits, if you see what I mean. Plenty of places for a drink and a snack. By the way, it's the 27th of February, and the temperature is 37 degrees centigrade. That's about 98 Fahrenheit, though the humidity is quite low. The main floor of the market has all kinds of things for sale, mainly touristy items, but gems and jewelry predominate. It was an interesting visit. The main tourist attraction in Rangoon is the iconic Shwedagon Pagoda, an amazing golden edifice that can be seen from all over the city. It's a holy shrine for pilgrims who come from all over Asia to pay homage. At the terrace we are greeted by an amazing sight. Kipling was impressed when he first set eyes on it. A golden mystery upheaved itself on the horizon, a beautiful winking wonder that blazed in the sun, of a shape that was neither Muslim dome nor Hindu temple spire. It's Buddhist. The Burmese brand of Buddhism uniquely incorporates Nat or spirit worship. They name 37 Nats, all capable of evil mischief, and all of which have to be worshipped and placated by festivals and offerings. With the exception of the chief Nat, the other 36 are all ghosts or spirits of deceased heroes. The stupa is 326 feet high, the lower part plated with 8,688 solid gold bars, and the upper part with another 13,153. The top of the stupa is decorated with 5,448 diamonds, 2,317 rubies, and sapphires and other gems, and 1,065 golden bells. The very top, the diamond bud, is tipped with a 76-carat diamond. Years ago, when they were cleaning the bud, it was on display, and I actually got to see it. Whenever I visit Burma, there are times I feel like I've time-traveled back in time. It may be an ancient site, or the dress and ways of the people, maybe just everyday transport. But this is certainly one of those places, unchanging and yet totally enigmatic.